Reigniting the Love of Self-Love. My name is Rosemary Powell. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the state of New York. Here's a snapshot of some of my credentials. I got my undergrad in healthcare administration, and I got my graduate degree at LIU as a marriage and family therapist. I am a clinical fellow with the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy, but I'm also chair of the New York Marriage and Family Therapy Network. Also, I am an approved supervisor candidate. I supervise students, master's and doctoral level. And I'm also certified through the city of New York as a minority woman business owned enterprise. So nice to meet you all. So what is self-love? As I was doing research and gathering data, this image came up and it really spoke to me in terms of what self-love is. And when we look at ourselves in the mirror, what do we see? So this in the picture here says, one day you will be so glad that you didn't give up on yourself. And I really think that this image captures what self-love could be for ourselves, but sometimes may not stick with us from day to day. So we've all just endured COVID-19 and been through the whole pandemic, quarantine to then coming back outside, and then I'll get right to you, Maria. And the COVID-19 rates going up and down through fall season and dampening things. So through the pandemic, we've had experienced a lot of things: loss, depression, anxiety, isolation, and hopelessness. If you see any of these things that resonate with you, I'm sure it brought you through some trying times, especially dealing with COVID-19 and the effects it has on our community. So let's see what some of the stats say in terms of what COVID-19 has done to our communities. According to New York Health Foundation.org, in May 2021, more than 1 in 5 adult New Yorkers who reported symptoms of anxiety and or depression also reported that they needed counseling or therapy from a mental health professional during the prior 4 weeks, but did not get it. This proportion generally increased from November 2020 to April 2021. Many New Yorkers may also be experiencing symptoms of mental health disorders for the first time or with greater severity than ever before, and may not have the knowledge, resources, or support to establish care. For our young people, although all age groups were affected, young adult New Yorkers ages 18 to 34 years had the largest proportion, 45% of reported symptoms of poor mental health in 2021. And for our families, in addition, 28% of adults with children in their household reported the emotional or behavioral health of at least one child that had been negatively affected by the pandemic in the past 2 months. So even though this is over time since 2020 till now, we are still being affected by the effects of COVID-19. So as I'm talking about the stats, did any of these questions come up for you? What feelings have come up? Did they, or what symptoms come up, stayed or got worse for you since the pandemic? Has it been difficult to manage or cope during that time or this time? And have you wondered about solutions? Self-care, as if I could put it in its best definition for me, I would say self-care is what you do for yourself to lead to a healthy, holistic lifestyle. So again, as I was doing my research and trying to find ways that I can present to you what self-care is, I came upon the 7 pillars of self-care. And those 7 pillars are mental, physical, environmental, social, spiritual, emotional, and recreational. So at this time, I'm going to ask you guys to participate in an activity with me. So if you have a pen and a paper handy, I would like for you to, I'm going to restate the 7 pillars. And as you hear me talk about the 7 pillars, I want you to list the activities that you do in your own self-care, and you put them under the categories that they come under. So the objective or the goal of this activity is for you to be able to effectively create a self-care plan using the 7 pillars of self-care. Adopt a balanced way of living based on your current strengths, and then explore implementation with family. Because as a marriage and family therapist, we always approach our problems with systemic thinking. And when we're talking about adopting healthy lifestyle for ourselves, we also want to try to get the buy-in from our family members so that they can also benefit from the good things that we're doing or positive changes that we're making to our lives, which can also help with sustainability over time with adopting a discipline such as so. So if you're ready, I'm going to reread these the 7 pillars, which is mental, physical, environmental, social, spiritual, emotional, and recreational. So first up is mental. So in this pillar, you can do meditating, journaling, self-reflecting, and making a to-do list. So if you're not really familiar with meditating, there are guided meditations that you can use to help you learn how to meditate. But then also just sitting quietly to yourself sometimes could help you be able to meditate in your own way. Deep breathing is a part of that as well because it helps help you self-regulate, but then also decrease anxiety over time. So adopting meditating, journaling, which is one of my faves, using questions or themes to answer questions for yourself, recording your day, or manifestation through writing. I just had this aha moment when I realized something I wrote in my journal last year has finally come to fruition. So I think manifestation through writing is big. If you haven't tried it, I encourage you to. Self-reflecting and thinking about who you are and how you impact um, your community, or thinking about something, how to make the next day better. That's helpful in the mental pillar. And making a to-do list. Sometimes we do so many things in a day and our mind is cluttered with all these thoughts. What can we do to alleviate some of that intensity that we feel around our thoughts, which could be making a to-do list, whether it be a to-do list for the day, to-do list for groceries, to-do list for household chores or personal matters. But it's helpful to get that all on paper to bring clarity. Our next pillar is physical. These are some things that you could do to close up your physical pillar, which is exercising, participating in a class or a sport. Uh, so many people may have hobbies that you may want to tap back into. You can take it in the form of a class where you have like-minded people, where you can also see other people that's doing the same thing that you would like to do. Preparing healthy food, although it may not seem like there's a physical aspect to it, but the actual action of creating healthy food and preparing them and drinking water is all helpful to make sure that you're actively being physical towards your well-being. Getting adequate sleep, sometimes that's a hard thing to do when you know you have so many little bit of hours and so many things to do. We always run into, oh, I could do this now as opposed to doing it another time, and going to bed late because you wanted to get something done. Yes, that may be helpful in terms of getting things done, but is it really time management, or do you really need to get more sleep so you can be better at time management? And refrain from heavy use of drugs and alcohol. Everything in moderation is key. Our next pillar is environmental. So this has rated on my top 3 actually, because apart from journaling and the mental, I love taking walks. Uh, Decluttering your space is very helpful in terms of feeling lighter and being able to think clearer and see things in a different light. Reorganizing your workspace or exploring new places, going to the museum or visiting a body of water. That's always helpful for the 5 senses as well. Even though it's winter, you don't need summertime to go to the beach. So I encourage you to get outdoors and be one with nature, I like to call it. Okay, our next pillar is the social. Visiting friends or having a FaceTime or WhatsApp with friends could be helpful to keep your social connections. Creating meaningful connections with family and friends. Sometimes we may think our friends and family are okay, but until you have that deep connection on the phone, then you can actually see that maybe they're not doing so well and we need to do a more frequent checkup, or suggest to them now maybe it's time to talk to someone professional. And that is also helpful because you're showing that you're being a good friend and that you're using your own strengths to help someone else. Our next pillar is the spiritual. Identifying values that are most important to you, meditating, praying, or having ceremonial services or offerings, spending time in nature, and how do you view your impact in the world? Sometimes people feel that their spiritual needs are fulfilled when they are doing their life's work. And I think that's equally important as praying or attending church, because everyone sees the benefit in terms of how they are impactful on the world and moving our social agendas forward. Emotional, um, gaining coping strategies, whether it be through therapy or talking to a good friend that could help you get emotional support during a hard time. Listening to music, establishing healthy boundaries if you need to say no to going to an event, and knowing that you need to do some self-care, and sitting quietly or doing some deep breathing could also be a part of your emotional pillar. Watching your favorite TV show, talking to a support system, support person or system, and being proactive on de-stressing, decreasing stressors. Because although we know we have a lot of things to do, being able to prioritize them and create an action step towards getting them done can help decrease anxiety and stressors. And last, our recreational pillar. This was third on my list. And discovery and exploration, discovering a new hobby, socializing and network can all feed into your recreational pillar. And if you have been, I hope you put this on your list. So we've come to the end of the activity. Did you guys make your list? And if you did, what areas did you see that you have more activities under one category than the other? What are your strengths? And what areas do you think you need a gentle nudge in the right direction? Because although we may show up in some ways of our lives, there's always room for improvement. So doing this list can help you see what your room for improvement is. So now that you've made your list, now what? I like to say, Nike, just do it. But if we're going to do it, what's the plan, right? So that brings me to next steps. When you want to implement something, you have to start with a plan. And even though it may be hard to see it at its end, creating a plan is going to help you get there. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You could phase in activities or schedule however it's best for you. Ask for support. You know, there's no fun in doing things alone and not talking about it, because then who can step in and help you propel yourself forward in a way that's meaningful? Grow up into your plan. Find your pace and be okay with it, because not everyone is going to be able to have the same momentum as the next person. So if you are to start 1 week with doing 2 days and increase to 3 days to 4 to 5 up to 7, that will help you adopt that new discipline. Embrace imperfection. You know, when you're making a plan, you want to try to cover all your bases, but however, we may fall short. We're all human. And so embracing perfection and being kind to yourself when you do make mistakes is very important to understand it's okay, because you're doing the best you can while being yourself. So these are the credits that I used to put my presentation together. Thank you so much. And this is my information. I'm the practice owner of Comfort Circle Marriage and Family Therapy. That's my insurances that I offer. So if you'd like to take note of that, I'll leave that on the screen, and I'll take any questions that you may have.